You think Peter Obi he said he's not deputizing anybody. He's told me in an interview that he's not deputizing and he's going to run. Well, it's going to be on the ballot.
Well, so it is not deputizing at this point anymore. Peter Obi has come out to express that he wanted to be president in 2023. Okay? Now we have to look for how best to get them to work together. I think that, it cannot just be a situation of let's run with Atiku Abubakar or let's run with Peter Obi. I think the best bet would be to have the two of them on that ticket and give Nigerians this sort of sense of co-presidency. I mean, we're already seeing it sort of in the administration of the country, where you have former Governor Nyesom Wike, portraying himself as a co-president. So why can't we have a co-presidency in that regard? So I think there will be discussions, especially within the ADC, where His Excellency Peter Obi, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar will sit down, have a solid arrangement that will see the both of them into power. Yeah. And so that way Nigerians get a sort of, you vote once and you get twice the benefits.
So you still think that it's an Atiku, Peter Obi, the 2019 pair that can beat Bola Tinubu?
I think that's the strongest ticket that we can present, that the opposition can present. I think there are other pathways. Yeah. There are other pathways. I see one pathway for Atiku through the south, through the southwest. I see another pathway through the south-south. But I think, the strongest ticket will be having that marriage of those two candidates, having them and having both of them run simultaneously politically driven campaigns across the country. You have Peter Obi campaigning in one area, you have Atiku Abubakar campaigning in another area, and their ideas are together. And I think, because of the fact that both of them have similar political ideologies, it will be probably the easiest thing to do. But that is even easier. It's an easier task than, getting the ADC to differentiate itself from the APC at this point.
But there are feelers also that it's not even an Atiku ticket that is scary to the APC. It's a Jonathan ticket.
Well, former President Goodluck Jonathan is a formidable candidate. And I respect him tremendously. If he comes into the race, that's fine. If he emerges a strong candidate, I think that's also fine. But I think, I'll put it this way. The boldness of Atiku Abubakar to run in elections simultaneously, especially after he has lost, it is I've lost an election before. I almost didn't want to come out. I almost didn't want to come out of my house. That man bounces back after every election. Not every politician has that in Nigeria. Atiku Abubakar has the heart. That is, it is solid. And having said that, I think that would answer the question about certain other personalities. Not everybody has that kind of heart in politics. A heart of, look, if I'm going to go into the race, if I contest primaries with this 43-year-old guy and this 43-year-old guy defeats me, I'll work for the 43-year-old guy. That's Atiku Abubakar for you. It doesn't matter. Would I contest against him tomorrow? Yes, I will gladly face him again. But not everybody wants to have that kind of contest. Not everybody wants to come into that kind of contest. I've heard
a few APC members say, look, if Atiku is on the ballot again, in fact, they will be very happy. And they have confessed that what is scaring them is Jonathan.
Well, that's fine.
That Jonathan is a scary...
That's fine.
He's a scary
that's what I'm saying. If Goodluck Jonathan comes into the primaries, if he can come into the primaries and contest in a competitive primaries and he wins, we all will support him.
So if Jonathan runs in the platform of the PDP,
yes,
and Atiku or someone else runs on the platform of the ADC, don't you think that is going to also be...
Then APC loses. APC would have no base in that election. So the scenario, there are several scenarios, and I think, all of them are all hypotheses at this point. But the last election was heavily ethnicized. Fortunately or unfortunately for us, Atiku Abubakar chose to run as a unifier. And rather than playing the ethnic card, it wasn't a very strong ethnic card to play anyway, because there was a lot of how would the Fulanis continue in power. So we could not even play that card. He had to play the unifier card. But people did not buy that unifier card. But if you put it in an election where Goodluck Jonathan is trying to capture the South-South, Bola Tinubu is trying to pump out numbers from the Southwest, then we would also return to our bases in the Southeast and the North and pull out those numbers as well.
You don't think this is the year we are going into is the year of the young people?
The year of the young people. Well, I think we should have had that. If you are talking politically, I think we should have had that for quite a while. Several governments have been unable to unlock the door for young people. In fact, in certain circles, when they say young people, they don't even consider people like us young people. They consider people in their 50s. And so when they say these young men, they are talking of people in their 50s. Those are in certain circles. I think, Nigerians deserve a party that recognizes the strength of those young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha even, that recognizes those strengths and harnesses them. So I think, yes, we are talking the year of the young people, but we also acknowledge our own shortcomings. That, Bola Tinubu is a behemoth. Taking him on is not going to be unseated easily. Okay, there is going to be, there has to be a rallying point. And I think, the ADC is just perfect for that, because this is a party that is coming out to say 35 to 50% of our positions will be reserved for young people and women. And I think, this just makes it indeed the year.
But your principal, Atiku Abubakar, says that he's ready to step down for a younger candidate if he's defeated in the primaries of the ADC. Do you think that the ADC should field a younger candidate?
I think the ADC should field Atiku Abubakar. That's what I think.
Not Amechi?
I think Atiku Abubakar is the strongest candidate presently. And with all due respect to everybody, in this race, I think, the strongest ticket is the ticket that I had mentioned, having the two of them together. But I think, when it comes to defeating Bola Tinubu, I think Atiku Abubakar stands a very strong edge, because there are certain factors that are going to come to play in 2027. Name recognition, the ability to pull structures from all over the country. Atiku Abubakar has that. And I think, this will happen. Again, what Atiku Abubakar has said, what he said in that interview, he was saying, look, this is who he has been. He has been consistent on this. He lost the primaries, came third in the primaries, and he stepped down for Chief MK Abiola in 1992. He lost the primaries to Goodluck Jonathan in 2011. He worked for Goodluck Jonathan in that same election, and he delivered Adamawa State for him. He lost 2015 to General Muhammadu Buhari in Lagos, 2014. And in the 2015 election, he delivered Adamawa for Muhammadu Buhari. That's who Atiku Abubakar is. If you defeat him freely, fairly, squarely, he will support you in any election.